Slangel back from Slangel Designs, and today we are going to work on the basic granny square tutorial, which is fairly straightforward. If you've watched the previous videos where we talked about the basic double crochet stitch and the chaining and stuff, you're going to be good to go, because it's basically a combination of double crochets and chain and a slip stitch. So fairly straightforward. So this is worked in the round and joined in a round, so that basically your right facing part of the project is the right side is always facing you. You don't flip your work like you did in some of the other tutorials. So I'm using worsted weight yarn and a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook for the purposes of the demonstration. In the pattern, which I will post the link to in the description, it uses a 5 millimeter or size H hook. So this is just to make it a little easier to see the stitches for you. And this can be made with a single color, or you can alternate colors, make, you know, the first couple of rows a certain color and then swap it out and then make a nice little border with different colors so that when you join up your squares it looks nice. Totally up to you. This is very versatile. If you want, you could just basically make this as big as you wanted and turn it into a blanket all on its own. It'll just be a perfectly square blanket. The pattern is written using US terms. When you're working your stitches, this, like your first row, your next row, you're working your set of stitches in the chain spaces, not the actual stitches from the previous row, which you'll see when we get into the video. As I said, very straightforward pattern. The stitch abbreviations in the pattern are chain, which is CH, chain space, CHSP, double crochet, which is a DC, slip stitch, which is your typical SLST, and just ST for stitch or stitches. Now, one thing you'll see sometimes in patterns is it'll say make a granny cluster, which is just a group of 3 double crochets in one single space. That's all that is, nothing fancy. So let's get started, and I'll show you from start to finish how we do this basic granny square. So what you're going to do is make a slip knot, which is wrap your yarn around your finger like this, take your tail, pull it through the V part, pull it down, put your hook in, tighten it up to the hook. You're good to go. So to start off, you're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, put your hook into the first chain that you made, which can be a little tricky. There you go. Yarn over, pull through that loop, and pull through the loop on your hook. It doesn't look like a whole lot right now, but there is a little hole in that middle. So now what you're going to do is chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and I try to hold on to my tail that we want to weave in, just so I can kind of tuck it in under. So you can see the hole there. So then you're going to yarn over, put your hook through the middle, yarn over and pull through so that you have your 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 1 or 2, sorry, yarn over, pull through 2. That's the first chain counts as your first double crochet. Then we just did the second, and we're going to yarn over, pull through, do another double crochet in that same space. That's our first granny cluster. So now I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, then yarn over in the exact same center hole that we've made with our first little slip stitch of the chain 4. We're going to put another granny cluster, which is 3 double crochets. And I can put the link to the video for the double crochet if anyone needs a little reminder on that, or if they haven't seen it. So we made our second set of granny cluster. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. You will always have a chain 3 for your corner. We're going to make our third set of 3 double crochets. So our third granny cluster, again going into that middle hole. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, a double chain is made, double crochet is made. yarn over, back in we go, yarn over, pull through 2, and pull through 2, second double crochet, yarn over, and insert the middle, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We just finished our another granny cluster. So chain 3 for the corner. It doesn't look like there's much room, but we are going to get another cluster in there to make our 4. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull through, so you got your 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, first double crochet. And repeat that 2 more times. Then we made that, finishes off that granny cluster with chain 3. And now we're at the end, and what we're going to want to do is we want to slip stitch this to the third stitch on the chain. So 1, 2, 3, and it's a little tight squeeze because you got to get it in there, and you want to try to get both loops. Yarn over, pull through, and pull through. That is the first round of the granny square. Now, because I have been looping everything in around, I can safely cut this off because I have it all tucked in behind where we were doing the double crochets. So now we're going to go on to round 2. So for round 2, you're going to start off with a chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is going to count as a double crochet and a chain 1, because next we're going to start working in this corner. So we're going to yarn over and put a set of 3 double crochets in the corner. Then because we're at the corner, we always chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to come right back into this corner and put another 3 double crochets. 2 and 3. Now, whenever you're going to go over a granny cluster, you're going to chain 1. And it's that chain 1 space that we're going to create now that the next set of granny clusters in the next row will be going in. So now we're going to come into this next corner and do a granny cluster of 3 double crochets. We're at the corner, so we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Go right back into that corner and do another granny cluster, which is 3 double crochets. Ooh, I didn't get my yarn over. There we go. Happens to everybody at some point. All right, we're going to jump over this one, so we're going to do a chain 1. Yarn over into our corner and do a cluster of 3 double crochets. We're at the corner, so 3 chains, back into the corner for another cluster of 3 double crochets. We're going to go over this cluster here, so we're going to chain 1 into the corner with a cluster of 3. 1, 2, 3. We're at the corner, so we're chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. Back in. We're going to finish the cluster we started when we started the row. So we're going to only have to put in 2 double crochets because the original chain 4 counted as one of the double crochets. So now we're going to count up 3. 1, 2, 3. Go into that there. That stitch there, yarn over, pull through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook, and so that was our original chain 4, which counted as a double crochet, and a chain 1, which got us over this cluster. So when we came back around, we only needed to put 2 double crochets in there and link it up with the slip stitch. So that made our round 2. So now we're going to move on to round 3. So you're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, which counts as your first double crochet. Then in the same chain space here, we're going to put 2 more double crochets. Then to get us over to the corner, we need to chain 1 to get us over this cluster of double crochets. Then we're going to put our cluster of 3 double crochets in the corner. 1, 2, and 3. We're at the corner, so we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then back into the corner with another cluster. 1, 2, and 3. Then chain 1 to get over this group, and then into this section here with another cluster. And again, whenever I say cluster, I mean 3 double crochets into the same spot. The granny cluster I was talking about. So then we're going to chain 1 and into the corner, we'll do another group of 3. Oh, my yarn split. You got to be careful of that sometimes. 1, 2, and 3. We're at the corner, chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Back into the corner with another cluster. So it is very straightforward because it's the same stitches over and over again. So once you master that double crochet, you're pretty golden. So then we're going to chain 1 to get over this group, back in with another 3 double crochets. So it can work up fairly quickly, and if you play around with color combinations, it can look really nice. We're going to chain 1 into the corner with another 3 double crochet cluster. What I like to do is, and we're at the corner, so we're chaining 3, is if I make my granny squares all the same color, what I like to do is have a second color that I'm going to use for the border, that I will do just 2 rows of single crochet all the way around after I'm done with the square. We're going to chain 1 and a cluster. And then when I stitch them all together, it makes a nice contrast. And one of the tutorials coming up will be how to put a nice border on and stitch them together so that you have a flat seam, because there's multiple ways you can join your squares together. We're going to chain 1 and put a cluster in the corner. Again, cluster is 3 double crochets. We're at the corner, so we're chaining 3. And then we go back in to put another cluster in. And then we need to chain 1. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3. We're going to come up into the top of that chain 3, put our hook in, yarn over, slip stitch, which is pull through and pull through. We have just finished row 3 of our granny square. So see, it starts to work up fairly quickly. So now we're on row 4. We're going to chain 4 because we need to do we need to do a double crochet for in here, but then we need to also do the chain to get over this cluster to get into here. So we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to put our cluster into the next chain 1 space from the row below. Then we're going to chain 1 to get us over this cluster and let us get into the corner. So which we're going to put another granny cluster of 3 double crochets in that corner. Along with a chain 3, followed by another cluster in the exact same corner spot to make the corner. Then we're going to chain 1 to get us over this cluster. I'm going to jump right in to the 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space in the row below. Chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next chain 1 space. A lot of repetition here, a lot of repetition, and it's a good way to practice. Then we're going to chain 1, 3 double crochet granny cluster in the corner. Oop. 3 chain 3. My yarn is all over the place, sorry folks. Then we're going to go right back into that corner with a cluster to make off this, to finish off this corner here. Chain 1, 3 double crochets in the next chain 1 space from below. And again, I'm not doing a slow description of the double crochet, because you can either catch that in the previous video or you may already know how to do it. So we're going to chain 1, 3 double crochets in the corner, and I'm going a little faster right now just so that we can cruise along a little bit. Chain 3, another cluster into the same corner space so that it will complete our new corner. Whoop. Sometimes you got to slow it down a little bit here. I'm getting ahead of myself. So chain 1, 3 double crochet cluster into the next chain 1 space below. Chain 1, another granny cluster, chain 1, a 3 double crochet cluster into the corner space, chain 3 to make the corner, and then another 3 double crochets into the same corner space to finish the new corner. Then we're going to chain 1, and we're only going to need to put in 2 double crochets into the next space because we had already started with our chain 4 included a double crochet in that space. So we're going to do 2 double crochets. Then we're going to slip stitch to the 3rd chain at the top. 1, 2, 3. Put your hook in. Make sure you get the 2 loops so that it's good and secure. Yarn over and pull through and pull through. Then, because this is the end of round 4, I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to yarn over, pull through, pull the yarn all the way through, pinch it and tighten it. Then you're going to take your darning needle or yarn needle or whichever you'd like to call it, and you're going to weave your ends in and make it all nice and tidy. And I usually flip it around to do that, and I just weave it down and through and try to get it nice and secure. Weave it down in. Then when I get to one of the clusters, I go through the cluster. Then I go down and through. I like to go in through a couple of them just to give it a nice secure hold. And then we'll trim that off. So there, that's the basic granny square. Now, if you wanted to make this bigger, it's super simple. What you're going to do is repeat rounds 3 and 4 until you have it at your desired length, or your desired size. again, you could turn around and make this into a giant square and just turn it into a blanket all on its own. But what I often do is, if I'm making something with granny squares, is I'll put just a single crochet border around each of the squares, so that when you stitch them together, you may have white in between and then put a final border around. So, basic granny square. In the future, we are going to go over some variations on the granny square, and just to give you a little teaser here, these are a couple of what they look like. A little bit more advanced because there's some front and back loops used and stuff like that, but it gives it more texture, just a little different look. But yeah, basic granny square. If you happen to make anything with this, I'd love to see a picture of it. I'd love to see how you're doing, and if you have any questions, please let me know. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and we'll see what we're going to make. And eventually, like I said, I am going to show you how to stitch these together so that you have a nice flat seam, so that it lays nice for you and stuff, okay? So anyway, that's the basic granny square. I hope you enjoy. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.